Not a creature was stirring. There we go. Call this meeting to order, the last council meeting of 2024. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to regular council meeting for December 9th. Meeting is called to order. Let's move right into the adoption of our agenda. Need a motion to adopt as presented, potentially. Councilor Reid?
Yeah, I'm happy to move the adoption of the agenda as presented.
All right, all those in favor? Carried. Off to a great start. Let's see if we can do the same for the minutes. Councillor Flowers.
It's a big one. That council adopt the minutes of the November 12th and 25th regular council meetings in 2024, November 25th, 2024 public hearing meeting, and the November 13th, 14th, 19th, 2024 special council meetings.
Yes, there were a lot of minutes there. See any lights? All those in favor? Carried. All right, no delegations tonight. Let's move straight into business. We have quite a few business items. 5A is the Local Growth and Sustainability Grant Program. Good evening, Mr. Blanchette.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Blanchette. I'm the Director of Strategic Services. I'm pleased to present to you today on administration's submission of the Horse Creek School Site Servicing Project to the Government of Alberta's Local Growth and Sustainability Grant Program, or the LGSG as we call it. On October 22nd, Sorry about that. On October 22nd, the Minister of Municipal Affairs launched the LGSG program with a total of $60 million in funding over a period of 3 years. The program consists of two funding streams, the sustainability component and the growth component. $15 million of the total of $60 million is dedicated to the sustainability component, which Cochrane is not eligible for, as this is meant for communities under 10,000 to address urgent infrastructure needs. The remaining $45 million is dedicated to the growth component, which provides an opportunity for mid-sized communities such as Cochrane to receive funding for infrastructure projects aimed at managing growth pressures. 50% of the project may be funded through the grant. Projects eligible for the growth component must be ready for construction by September 2025 and have a minimum budget of $1 million. Additionally, the submission requires a council resolution in support of the application. The servicing of the Horse Creek school site was chosen because it meets the requirements of the LGSG program. More specifically, it would be shovel-ready in 2025 and its benefits realized within 2 years. The application also includes the off-site high-pressure water main, which will enhance water servicing capacity in the area. The LGSG is specific to growth pressures such as the strain on existing education infrastructure and is not for parks and active living projects. That is why the application focuses on the first year of the Horse Creek Sports Park project. Key components of the project include land preparation, such as grading and leveling the site, and utility servicing, including the installation of stormwater management systems, drinking water, supply lines, and wastewater systems. Once the site is serviced, Rocky Schools can begin to work with the province towards the goal of building a new school. The servicing of the Horse Creek school site and off-site water main will cost $11.4 million, which is included in our budget. The LGSG program could contribute up to 50% of the total eligible project costs, meaning the Government of Alberta could contribute up to $5.7 million, with Cochrane funding the rest. It's anticipated that the Government of Alberta will announce successful projects in early 2025. The project is aligned with our strategic plan in the following ways: financial stewardship. A successful application reduces the financial impact on Cochrane by covering 50% of the project costs, minimizing municipal spending while achieving valuable infrastructure. This approach supports Cochrane's financial stewardship goals by leveraging external funding to meet community needs. Built environment, the project focuses on the servicing of lands designated for a new high school in collaboration with Rocky View Schools, which will significantly enhance Cochrane's capacity to meet the demands of its rapidly growing population. Intentional relationships, Rocky View Schools is Cochrane's long-time and trusted partner on this project. Administration is seeking council support for the Horse Creek School Site Servicing Project application. Thanks for the opportunity to present this evening, and I welcome any questions that council may have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Blanchette, for your presentation. Over to you, Councillor Reid, first on the lights tonight.
Yeah, I would move option 1, that council endorse the grant application under the growth component of the local growth sustainability grant. Kevin, thanks for the presentation. I'm glad that we're jumping on this. I had 2 questions if I could. Do you have any feel or what the likelihood of being able to secure this grant is, or is it so new that you just don't have anything to measure it by?
It is brand new. It's certainly, it's difficult at this stage to understand whether, like, there will be a number of submissions from a number of municipalities, so it's hard to know. I think, certainly we've made the story and made our story very prevalent with the ministers about the growth in Cochrane. So I feel good about our application for certain, but it's hard to know, the potential for success.
And if we're unsuccessful, then we're back on the hook, so to speak, in terms of the 11.4 million.
That's correct, and we've already in our budget, that's correct, yeah.
If I could, one more question.
Please.
What's the likelihood of this being able to use for other school sites to get them ready, shovel-ready?
Well, it's a one-time intake at this stage, so this would be a 3-year period with this one-time intake. I think it's what the minister said to us was that he is looking for successful projects that are going to address growth problems, growth challenges in communities. So I think, again, you can never predict it, but I think success on these kinds of projects and programs will allow for increased funding, based on that success. I mean, there's no guarantee, but certainly that we were encouraged to really pick the kind of project that would substantially, demonstrate, our commitment to address our growth challenges.
Yeah, just a supplemental question then. So the likelihood, with the Minister of Education announcing the fund for schools, you think we'd be seen as favorable in that sense? I guess my question is, where I'm searching or going at this, is it possible to make 2 applications? Have we got another school-ready site that we might wish to submit an application for at the same time?
We've already actually submitted that application, so this is a resolution after the fact. So they would have to open up another period of application for us to be able to make an application.
Okay, thank you.
So although it's a 3-year program, it's got a one-time intake. Yeah.
Councillor Fideko?
Through Mr. Derricott. If we aren't successful for this, does it delay any timing for actually servicing that site, or could anything be bumped considering that this has to be done within the next year?
Through the chair to Councillor Fideko, no, we're planning for it. The project will go to tendering for the project in February, and the project will commence in the spring to be finished in the fall. So that should not delay any timing on that.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see any other lights on. The only color I guess I would add to this is when I spoke to Minister McIver about this very thing, he was clear that he had hoped that municipalities approach this new grant funding with a level, respect is the wrong word, so I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it was I hope you guys don't just overpopulate and subscribe to this grant and utilize it for key, meaningful projects. And I think kudos to administration for our application. I think it checks a lot of the boxes that Minister McIver and Municipal Affairs was looking for. Also, I think the vein that you were going, Councillor Reid, was, I mean, we have the need for schools. This also kind of dovetails nicely into that. So, and I saw that in the grant application. So, fingers crossed. And I don't want to jinx it, but I think we have a pretty good chance on this. Yeah. Thank you for your presentation. I will call the question. All those in favor? Carries unanimously.
Thank you, Council. I just wanted to also acknowledge my colleagues, Christine Raves and Jane Dangerfield, for their assistance in this. We had five weeks to pull this together, so it was a lot of work, so I just want to acknowledge those people. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, takes a team. Okay, we're going to move to 5B now. Envision Cochrane 2050. Bylaw 24, 2024. Mr. Krasinski.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Counselor Federico had missed the public hearing, so cannot vote for second reading, so she's excusing herself.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and members of council. Thank you for having us here for a second reading of Bylaw 24, 2024, Envision Cochrane 2050. This report to council represents the culmination of work that began in September 2023 and included 3 phases of extensive internal and public engagement to develop the final draft of Envision Cochrane 2050, Cochrane's new municipal development plan. Along the way, administration has completed additional foundational work, such as the Cochrane Growth Study, to inform council, the public, and administration as we developed Envision Cochrane 2050 together. All told, the project team, represented by members of administration and our primary consultant, O2 Planning and Design, received more than 2,100 responses over the 3 phases of engagement, representing upwards of 5.6% of Cochrane's population. In addition to more than 100 internal engagement with all internal departments and subject matter experts in administration, as well as numerous engagements with regional partners, council, and nonprofit organizations in the community to develop this document, we're very grateful of all their participation. On behalf of the project team, I wanted to pass on our sincere gratitude to them and everybody who helped participate in helping us shape Envision Cochrane 2050. I'm joined today by Rachel Dillon and Sean Small from O2 Planning and Design, who are here with me to answer any questions you may have. As council has seen this presentation a few times along this journey before, we're looking to go straight into our recommendation and answer any questions that you may have. So with that, I will move on to our recommendation. Administration is recommending that council give second reading to bylaw number 24, 2024. As a reminder for council, the next step after our second reading will be circulation to CMRB. And there can be no material changes to Envision Cochrane 2050 after CMRB review prior to returning for third reading in Q1 2024, likely near the end of February, beginning of March. So happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we have seen this a number of times over the past, 18 months? It's been a journey, so I appreciate the brevity in the presentation, but that does not mean it's not important at all. Councillor Nagel.
I thought in the public hearing, one of the public members who presented brought up something that I agree with as a bit of a concern, and that is the way that this plan identifies infill development as a priority. I felt like that didn't come from the conversation with council or in the public consultation. When exactly did that enter the conversation?
Through the chair, Councillor Nagel, Rachel Dillon will add a little bit more color here, but is my view from the document that I don't believe it really prioritizes infill development. Rather, through some of the council policy direction discussions we had, there was a decision around the discussion on growth to pursue growth both through within our borders, while also pursuing opportunities for growth beyond our borders as well, as a mechanism to accommodate growth. So I think it's more of a balance rather than a prioritization of one. But maybe Rachel can add some color.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have much more to add to what Mark mentioned there. It is infill or redevelopment as being an opportunity to increase density in some of the developed areas. Sometimes like new downtown could be referred to as infill development if it is redeveloped, for example. And as we undertake area redevelopment plans, those can guide further infill development, but those are created in consultation with the community.
So on page 41, where it says 3.1.6, undertake area redevelopment planning activities to identify infill opportunities in existing central communities. Does that will that translate into an action item from administration to go and find neighborhoods where we want infill development to occur?
Through the chair, Councillor Nagel, one of the things we've been looking at is as we look to the future and a new municipal development plan, planning for future work. So what this is intended to relate to is looking at prioritizing what work we want to do after the municipal development plan, which would be to identify what communities within Cochrane could be most suitable for redevelopment if we were looking for redevelopment, and being centrally located, basing that on some of the information from the growth study, communities that have older infrastructure and older year of construction for houses, so not looking to go into any new communities, but the ones that are likely to be ready for redevelopment over the life of the development plan.
Yeah, so my concern with this is I think if you asked most Cochrane residents, they're happy with our existing residential communities. Even the ones downtown, they're like closer to downtown, let's say the closest ones would be Glenbow and East End. I think residents would really not be happy to know if the council was approving strategic documents that would be, you know, kind of looking at those areas for infill development. So this whole section, I don't think it's in step with what the community really wants. And it's like, I think if administration wanted to make proposals for council to review on case-by-case basis for certain neighborhoods, particularly areas that are industrial, maybe they wanted to be turned into high-density residential or something that hasn't even been developed yet, I think council would probably be open to that. Not meaning to speak for everybody, but I would like to remove all references to infill development as part of our vision document here, if anybody else is in favor of that.
Okay. Councilor Reid?
Mr. Chair, sorry, maybe if I just before we jump into the conversation, just to add a little bit to what Mark has shared. I think that it is important to acknowledge the reality of redevelopment and the pressures that come along with that, and that it is a natural process. And redevelopment does not necessarily mean densification. And as you mentioned, any redevelopment plan would be on a case-by-case and neighborhood-by-neighborhood basis that would include review of active interest, market conditions, the community's desires, as well as servicing requirements, et cetera. All of those would be reviewed as part of it. And the character of neighborhoods is a key element to consider when you're doing a redevelopment plan. I don't think it's reasonable or responsible to remove reference to infill from a plan like this. It's going to be a natural pressure that our community faces. I think it's more to guide those conversations towards the principles that you're even talking about there, as in what are the right fits for our community, where does it make sense? And that happens, as you mentioned, for example, if you're going to say the East End was to receive a redevelopment plan, that would be a review, including consultation with the affected residents and landowners that are in that area. So I just wanted to add a little bit of context to the references that you see in a document like the MDP are acknowledging those realities, but the process really happens in detail at those redevelopment plan stages.
And if I can, I completely agree with Mr. Derricott. It's already happening in the East End. Properties are already transitioning. And there is an opportunity through this document which gives us clear direction to do those plans, to engage the community, to do the redevelopment plan and have a comprehensive plan. Properties are changing hands right now in the East End where there are plans from the development community to increase density, to redevelop. So I think it's beneficial to have this type of policy, which can help guide those future discussions as well.
Okay, you're good. Councilor Nagel?
Yeah, I still feel I'd like to remove it from the document if any, but obviously I'm just an individual, so I'm not gonna bother moving a motion to do that unless there's other members of council who are open to it.
We'll see what the floor says. Councilor Reid?
A couple of comments. I was just wondering what, excuse me, what became of the comments from the public hearing?
I think that was you, sorry.
Through the chair, Councilor Reid, we reviewed some of the comments from the public hearing, and we believe that they're all really reflected within here. I think there were some comments that were more general in nature about the relationship of Envision Cochrane 2050 to another document, but at the end of the day, we believe that this document still reflects largely what the community had expressed.
So just to be clear, the comments from the public hearing, nothing has changed in relation to the document, you just noted that the comments were made.
Correct.
Yeah, I kind of had concerns that Morgan did as well, and I was wondering, rather than using the term infill, if you used redevelopment. Because I think that's a more appropriate definition, given what we've heard from administration, and I think that would be much more palatable, at least to me, and I'm sure at least one of my colleagues, in terms of being able to go forward. I think infill creates illusion in it, and at least in my mind, and similar, I think, to Morgan's, that is not what you are referring to. I think redevelopment is a much more operative word in terms of this context.
Yeah, and redevelopment has the link to the name of the plan, which is an area redevelopment plan, like we heard spoken here, is an opportunity really for the communities to help work with the planning community to envision the future of it, which does include redevelopment, but it also includes public realm, park improvements, anything else to create a holistic vision for how the community could redevelop over time.
So the other comment that came up during the public hearing, well, there were two. One was around questionable language, but I just made a note to myself that I'm not quite sure what that was. But the other one that was more meaningful had to do with climate change. And while we recognize that the climate is changing, I'm not sure that we know where it's going or what we're doing. And so I'm like the individual at the public hearing who referenced that, I am concerned about the wording in the document about that. And I don't know if the rest of my colleagues feel that way, but I'm not sure what the answer is. I don't have a quick solution, but it does trouble me.
Yeah, and particularly with the reference to climate change, there is a requirement for any municipal development plan approved in the Calgary region to align with the regional growth plan. And one of the requirements for municipal development plans in the Calgary region is to include climate change, resiliency, adaptation, mitigation policies. So the policies in the Envision Cochrane 2050 plan are in alignment with that.
So remind me again, is the wording generic enough that it just identifies climate change as a potential concern but not identify any particular solutions?
It's broad wording to look at, but there are suggestions of different areas to look into, but it is encouraging policy. I don't know if Sean has it open at the moment.
It's in several places in the document, but there's
Yeah,
one
there's a
section
few
in particular.
places, and there's one here.
Perhaps while they're looking up this as well, I would just also, while I appreciate that some of these may be spurred by an individual presenting at the public hearing, I just encourage council to remember that that was just a single individual's opinion as well, and there was hundreds, if not thousands, of touch points with the community as we worked through this process as part of it. So just cautious about how we approach those comments.
No, fair enough. What I heard and what I'm now understanding, having kind of looked back at it, I think there was some merit to that. And it's not just that individual. It was actually that individual who prompted that in my thinking. But maybe I'm the only one that feels that way. Thank you.
So I can help. There's two references to climate change within the document. The first one is on page 157. I'll just read that for council's benefit. It says, mitigate climate change by locating the highest density close to services and accessible with a variety of transportation modes, encouraging sustainable building and public space design, protecting and increasing natural vegetation, and supporting renewable and efficient energy systems. So a fairly generic statement is the first one. The second one is design town facilities, amenities, and assets to be resilient and responsive to climate change, population growth, and changing demographics. And I would venture that that's just us being responsible, designing our facilities for the long term. So again, those are the two references within the document. There's 5 references to infill development.
Okay, you're good. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you. I also had some of the same things here in front of me that Councillor Reid just brought up. Generally, I approve of how the document has come together. I quite like what's in front of us generally. Right now, I wouldn't vote in favor of it due to the climate change references contained within. Again, I thought that our public hearing did hit on some of those things, but I already felt this way before the public hearing as well, as I'm worried it leads to bad outcomes and isn't relevant to our local policy. So I do agree with the local environmental principles in the document. I care deeply about our local environment, but I fear unnecessary costs or red tape regulations like the Edmonton electric bus debacle, or federal climate change taxes and restrictions, or local subsidized electric charging stations would likely result from such language. So I do think it's important that that shouldn't be in our document. I guess I do have one question before I go into the infill part, and that's, I just heard that it must be in the document because we must align with Calgary regional planning documents. Has that changed now with our new findings that the CMRB is no longer in existence?
It hasn't changed. As of right now, the CMRB still exists, and the growth plan was adopted by ministerial order, and that's still in place for the moment.
If I may, Councillor Wilson, I think, were you talking about infill?
No, I was still talking about
Climate
the
change.
climate
Okay.
change,
All right.
the actual climate change term itself, and then the document several times. Thank you for that, and then,
Yeah,
sorry.
through the chair, Councilor Wilson, I think some of the concern is if we were to amend those clauses, it could jeopardize the ability of us to receive endorsement from CMRB, which could further delay approval of Envision Cochrane 2050 for alignment with, as Ms. Dillon mentioned, the ministerial consent regional development plan.
I hope a simple rewording wouldn't cause all that, but to get my vote, that's what I would need to see anyway. I'm only one vote, so I might not be that important. For the infill development part that Councillor Nagel brought up, I thought that was worth mentioning. I would like any redevelopment to be driven through financial and livability considerations to Cochrane residents as a whole, not just meeting arbitrary density targets. And so, while I do agree with everything I just heard that infill developments are coming in Cochrane, we see that as communities age. The way I would like them to be driven, obviously, is through metrics that we decide and not arbitrary. I guess what I just said, density targets, and it does feel like it's a little bit of a mandating of density everywhere, where a lot of times I do agree with density. In fact, the majority of the time, that's what makes something financially solvent, but it shouldn't just be for density's sake. It should be for the benefit of Cochrane residents. So that language bothers me a little bit too, and I am worried about that. So those would be my two main things, but honestly, I have a lot of good things to say about the document in general. I quite like it. Thank you for all the touch points with council, and it's small things that are keeping me from voting for it today.
Through the chair, Councilor Wilson, if I may, I think one of the components I just wanted to clarify is that with an area redevelopment plan, it doesn't necessarily mean an increase of density. It really is a vehicle to provide council with the ability to provide greater clarity for administration to follow in terms of that redevelopment plan. So a little bit of a terminology component there that the intent is to enable council to provide additional control over what redevelopment looks like and where it occurs and what type of densities they feel are appropriate.
Could I add one more sentence? I appreciate that. It does read to me in its current form, as Councillor Nagel pointed out, that I see other places in the document where it talks about financial solvency. I love some of the metrics it's taken into account for, but in that one compartment, I'd like to see a little bit more verbiage around the way that we're deciding on our infill development and the metrics we would be using. I don't quite think it hits the mark yet.
Councillor Flowers?
I think that the explanations are good for the wording, and it's broad enough that I'm happy with it. And some of the metrics that he's talking about, could that not be developed along the way and the next components?
Absolutely. You'll notice in the attachment to the plan is an implementation strategy, and one of the first items is to finalize an indicator list. The plan provides initial indicators to start that process, but absolutely additional metrics could be suggested as part of that work to monitor progress to the plan.
That would be great, because that's something we're developing as we go, and we don't have all the answers yet. Thank you.
Councillor McFadden?
For both points, whether it's infill or the climate lens on it, I'm actually comfortable with the document as it stands in regards to those two areas. I was just doing a quick Google, because in my head, redevelopment and infill were primarily the same. It's the same thing. So to be changing it, I don't know, I wouldn't want to be scared of words when the intent is still there, that we want to deliberately plan in an intelligent way what those communities are gonna look like as they age out. And so, and we do have a number of redevelopment plans, I was just trying to find them. I believe the East End has a current redevelopment plan that's been in the works, I think it's been sitting on the books for about 20 years. We've got the downtown redevelopment plan, so we do have currently redeveloping plans that we have been leaning into in our development. So for me, the difference between infill and redevelopment has generally been, in my lens, potato. And so I did a quick, and not that you should ever trust Wikipedia as your resource, but the quick one here was infill refers to development of vacant parcels within previously built lands. I don't know if we have any, I guess, vacant parcels, while redevelopment involves converting an existing build property into another use. So I'm not caught up on the language. I very much understand the intent behind it, so I'm not a flag on the language there. And I think also the same lens when it comes to climate. I don't think using climate in our planning documents or in our lexicon is a bad thing. Wherever we stand from our own personal philosophies of the cause of climate change or the responsibility of it, I think acknowledging that climate is a thing and it is changing, and that we need, as forward-looking planners, to be aware that climate does change and we need to be planning for that. So for both of those, reading the language, I don't see anything that's a red flag there. I personally just don't want to be, responding to just that a word is used and therefore the intent behind it is wrong. So I support, when it comes to those two conversation pieces, I'm comfortable with the document as it is. And I think broadly speaking, I did want to congratulate the team on the extensive public engagement that's gone through this, having been part of the public lens in the last MDT and then voting on it as a councillor that following year. I think by and large the fact that the feedback on those is coming from a very, well, let's rephrase it the other way. I think broadly there's a lot of support for the document as it is, and I think that really resonates more with me than getting a document that I'm 100% comfortable with. If we're looking ahead to the upcoming budget, I certainly am not expecting that I get 100% of my lenses on all of our decisions. So at this point, the concerns that I've heard from my colleagues, reflecting on the intent of the document, I'm comfortable with the document stands.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McFadden. Councillor Nagel?
I would like to respectfully offer a counterpoint. I think while we are just passing policy that will outlive likely all of us in this room, the words we choose in that policy are very important, the specific words. And infill, in my understanding, by definition, infill is adding additional units into underutilized lands and increasing densification, which is different from redevelopment. And for that reason, it is very important to me that we remove the word infill from this whole document. Again, and I don't appreciate that it was suggested that I'm just responding to a single resident's concerns. I think it's very evident when you talk to dozens, if not hundreds of Cochranites, that increasing density in our existing neighborhoods is a very undersought and unappreciated strategy by our residents. People do not want us to do that. It is not just one person in our public hearing coming in and saying that, and that's not the reason that I'm advocating for this policy. I don't believe we have a motion on the floor.
We do.
We do. So what is?
Oh, no, we don't. We don't. Oh, you were the first to speak, so.
Yes, so what I would like to do is move the motion and then move an amendment and see what council thinks. Then if Councillor Wilson wants to do an amendment as well, we can do that. Does that work?
Or you could move with the changed language.
Well, I would like to move that we approve. That's fine.
Give second reading.
Yeah, I would like to move, what is the actual option? I'd like to move option 2, the council gives second reading for bylaw 24/2024 with amendments, and my amendment being that we remove reference to infill development in all 5 locations from the document.
And insert redevelopment. Replace it with redevelopment.
Yeah, and use the words redevelopment or strategic redevelopment as the administration deems necessary.
Okay, I'll look to the planning team. Is that a significant enough change is that a something you could undertake easily without having to go back to the drawing board and come back for another iteration? I guess I'm just asking about doing that, wordsmithing the document on the fly tonight while we give second reading, or should we take it away for a second crack at it?
Since
Or a
infill,
10th crack, whatever we're at now.
since infill is only used 5 times, I think it would be, we probably can't, maybe we could, if we could do it now on the floor of council, but it would be a relatively simple wording change in those policies.
And not significantly change the look,
No.
feel, direction, yeah, okay, that's more where I was
Yeah.
going. Okay, thank you. Okay, so Counselor Nagel, you have that on the floor, move second reading with the amendment to change the wording of infill to redevelopment, where it's stated. Okay. Anyone, well, I haven't really gone yet, but I'll speak to your motion. When I read through the document, I didn't take infill in that way. I'm hearing what you're saying, and so that's why I was asking the question around, does redevelopment change the nature of the document? It doesn't. So I'm fine with your suggestion. I didn't find the same aversion to the climate change suggestions either in there. I think they were, as Mr. Heineman pointed out, very high level and really just acknowledging that that there is a climate and that we would respect it. And that, and I don't think I could say it much better than what Councillor McFadden said in her remarks. I agree with you, Tara, on that this document was put together well. I appreciate how many touch points there was with council, but also in the community, and that we grew this together. So it's not really just reflecting what we want as 7 people or 6 tonight around the table. It's what our community wants in a document. I liked the look and feel, and I know that's not exactly the first planning exercise, is get a document that looks good, but it's easy to follow is really what I mean. So when someone picks up this and flips through, they see kind of where we're headed, and I liked that as a North Star for our community into the future. So I'm not really hung up on the climate part, only given what our administration's saying, and also that I actually do think it needs to be in there in some form. I don't feel it's in there in a form that is so prescriptive that it will drive the outcomes that you're maybe concerned about, Councillor Wilson. I think that those next steps, council has interface there, the community has interface, and planning team has always hands-on all of those things, so I'm less worried about that. But overall, I'm happy with the document and all the work that's gone into it. I thank you. Councillor Reid, we're going around again on Councillor Nagel's motion.
Yeah, just as indicated earlier, I am in support of that a motion in relation to moving forward with the redevelopment terminology. And while I didn't say it at this particular meeting, but I think I said it in all the other previous presentations that you've done, and this is an incredible document. In many ways, it's probably one of the greater things that we've done as a council in terms of preparing our community for its future. And as one of my colleagues said, this document will long live beyond almost everybody in this room. And so I'm excited about it, and I should have prefaced my comment by thanking you for that. I really do think it's a great document, and it does have a nice look and feel. I like the content of it more than I like the look and feel.
Don't pick on me like that.
Yeah, but I am in support of the motion. I think redevelopment better defines the kind of conversation that we're having and sets the tone for future councils. So, thank you.
Councillor McFadden?
Just as an alternative thought, one of the things I appreciate about the document was that you introduced the policy language at the beginning. So you've got, a definition for what engage means and design means, those type of things. And so as an alternative thought, if what I didn't find when I was looking for it is there's no definition for infill, redevelopment, or climate. And so as a possible alternative, to take the document away and create some definitions, and then we could then review and see because I think what may be happening here is we don't have a common understanding around the table of what we all mean by infill and redevelopment. And so if maybe we just updated the policy language to get actual planning language in there, that we could then go from that, from like kind of an agreed definition lens of things. So it's just an alternative perspective.
Okay, Counselor Wilson.
Just to give my opinion on why my hand will still be down, I don't think that revision at all addresses my concerns with it, and only slightly improves it with the one word change, so I'd still be against it as it currently sits.
Okay, Counselor Nagel, back to you.
Do you have a possible amendment to my motion to propose to fix the document, or does it need more work than that?
Counselor Wilson.
I have a solution, but it sounds to me like I'm going to be outvoted around the table. To get my vote, we'd have to remove the climate change verbiage throughout the document, and I would like to see some financial metric talk placed within the infill portion that you're speaking to, Councillor Nagel. So we're not that far apart, but I do think those are very important pieces that would completely change how this document governs us going forward. So yeah, unless the table wanted to come with me there, I'll just be the lone vote out, it sounds like.
You still have the floor, Counselor Nagel. Yeah.
Would changing the word climate change to environmental pressure appease you at all?
It's certainly better, and it would likely be enough to get my vote. I know that one term doesn't sound like much, but I've seen the most unbelievably silly and destructive policies put forth in different levels of government from that one term that I fear for it in Cochrane, and that's why I'm being a bit of a stickler on it. So yes, I would need a change to something like that. Sure.
I appreciate your work in trying to build consensus, Counselor Nagel. So we're wordsmithing here, but I'm hearing from you, Counselor Wilson, that would garner your support for the document if we were to change. Sorry, Counselor Nagel, what was the language that you used? Environmental pressure?
Yeah, so there's two occurrences of the words climate change, and we could replace those two words with environmental pressures as part of my amendment as well. I know we're getting a little sloppy procedurally.
Well, we haven't got there yet, so we're still clean. We're still clean. But maybe we'll go to Counselor Reid while we think about that.
I was just gonna say in the glossary of terms, the term redevelopment is actually in there, and infill is not. And so, again, speaking in support of the initial motion, I think the redevelopment term is a more appropriate than infill. And speaking to the environmental pressures, I think it would be nice to get unanimous consent for this document, and if that would appease Councilor Wilson in terms of environmental pressures, I'd be happy to support that as well.
Okay, we don't have well, maybe we do. Counselor Wilson?
You're looking for an amendment from, sorry, Mr. Chair, we should go back to that. We need an amendment to move forward still. We haven't got to an acceptable place to vote. Is that what I just heard?
Well, all that's on the table now is that infill would be replaced with redevelopment, and that seems to be garnering support from the majority, with you talking about potentially coming on board if we were to change climate change verbiage. But there is no motion to that effect.
Okay, so I would propose a friendly amendment then, if everyone agreed. I'm on board with the redevelopment language. I would like climate change to be changed to environmental pressure, I believe I just heard, sure. I'm okay with that, and I would still recommend that we put some sort of financial metric language into the development part, but for the sake of getting a vote tonight and getting the document through, I don't think that's enough to hold it up, so it's a small criticism, and I would I'd be willing to vote in favor with those changes.
Okay, so friendly amendment. Councillor Nagel, do you accept that as a friendly amendment, or would you like to add that to your, I'm going to look over there.
I do accept the friendly amendment, and I also want to add that I don't think we should feel apologetic about doing a bit of wordsmithing in this document. It's a gigantic document, which we're saying is going to shape our future for the next 30 years. We are the council who's going to own this document once it's approved, and so I think taking some time to adjust 12 of like 20,000 words is totally acceptable.
Yeah, no, I wasn't trying to make anyone feel bad about that. This is what second reading's all about. Yeah, Councillor McFadden.
So I'm against losing the word climate in this. At the end of the day, I just can't, environmental pressures, you're still trying to infer the same result without using the word that is common in our lexicon, what we're actually talking about in climate. So it, no, that, well, I could certainly move on the redevelopment. I still don't see it in the definition. To use the climate does not have my support. So on your perfect wordsmithing of trying to get 100% across the board, that I just
So
can't do
you're
it.
jumping off the boat when Counselor Wilson jumps on the boat? Okay. Okay. Counselor Flowers?
I agree with Councillor McFadden. We've seen this for so many months now, and at this late date to change huge things like that is just, it doesn't make sense to me. Climate change is used all over the place, so I would like to leave it, but I'm okay with the land piece changing.
So I'm just going to ask a procedural question. So we allowed a friendly amendment, so the motion on the floor is to take out the language on infill, replace with redevelopment, and replace climate change with environmental pressures. So that is one motion on the floor. So we don't have, now we're going the other way. Councillor Nagel, I saw you were moving for your light there.
Yes, we're in uncharted procedural territories because I've tried to go up in votes and now I've gone down in total votes. So, can I reverse the acceptance of the friendly amendment and can we put that amendment to a vote and then defeat Councillor Wilson at the amendment?
You guys are really trying me on the last meeting of the year. Could not accept the friendly amendment.
If I may, procedurally, unfortunately, no, you've already accepted a friendly amendment, so you can't rescind that. There's a couple of things that you could do is you could have a formal amending vote to change the motion, or you could withdraw your motion and there could be an alternative motion made. So those are the two procedural avenues that you could pursue.
I think you're best rescind.
Yep.
And then put on a new one.
Okay, so I would like to rescind my motion. Sorry, Councillor
Rescinded.
Wilson. And I would like to make a new motion
Please.
to approve it's bylaw 24/2024 with the amendments of removing the word infill and replacing it with redevelopment or strategic redevelopment.
Okay, back to square one. I don't see any lights on. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? That carries. Okay, I think I know what we did there. Yeah, no, we're done. So that's second reading. It's going to CMRB now. Regardless of what the legislation turns out to be in the interim, we have to follow what's legislated currently, which is there's a CMRB. Yeah. Okay, thank you again.
Great, thank you.
Where's the easy button? Oh, yes, please. Okay, welcome back, Councilor Federico. We are on, or about to be on 5C, the Helping Hands request. And Ms. Almond, would you please make your way to the podium? Good evening.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. I don't have a presentation tonight. I am just going to speak. As you will see from the report that I submitted with your council agenda package, Laura MacDonald from the Director of Helping Hands came forward and provided an update on the programs that the organisation provides and the services that they provide to our Cochrane community. Within that presentation, they asked for some financial support. So I'm here to present an option of support for Council's consideration. So I just want to be clear that it's two separate things. So this would be a once-off 2024 assistance to Helping Hands because we did receive a repayment from the Civic Partnership Agreement with Victim Services in the amount of 26,000 and some change. This has been refunded back into the account and is available to be reallocated. So upon direction from council, we could reallocate that money to Helping Hands. I just wanted to point out that as discussed during budget deliberations, the whole community grants portfolio that falls under community safety and wellbeing will be coming to council at the beginning of next year with a suggested framework for applications, and Helping Hands is more than welcome, along with any other organization in our community, to apply through there as well for ongoing support. This is with regards to a reallocation of the amount refunded from Victim Services. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, I see a few lights on. Thank you. Councillor McFadden?
Yes, thank you very much. I'm pleased to move option 1, the recommended action that council directed MIN to allocate $26,086.33 from amounts returned from the Victim Services Civic Partnership Agreement to the Helping Hands Society of Cochrane within the 2024 budget cycle. I have no questions. I think we talked about it fairly extensively in budget, and it's certainly a worthy cause that makes a great deal of difference in our community.
Thank you.
Councillor Flowers?
Yes, I know that's the easy route to go, that number, because we had the money turned back. But we are going to have a huge surplus, and this is a new group that's really proven themselves. I would have liked to have seen it quite a bit higher than that. We don't know what's going to happen next year, and they really need the money now. So I would like to see it be higher than that, somewhere between 50 and 75,000.
If I may, through the Mayor to Councillor Flowers, we don't have our year-end numbers, and I will look to Alvin or Mike, but I'm pretty sure if we do have a surplus next year, you normally would have the option to put that into reserves, and you would have the option to tell us to do something different with a small amount. Currently, we don't know what our surplus is going to be this year.
Yeah, if I may add to that, thank you, through the chair. If council was to decide to go beyond the recommendation where there's identified funding existing in the budget, my suggestion would be that it would just be drawn from an existing operating reserve, and then that could be replenished through the future surplus. But referring to the future surplus in a financial sense is not a realized financial resource at this point. It's a projected one. And so council should consider existing reserves should they want to augment the recommended number.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to hear what others have to say.
Councillor Reid?
Yeah, so if I understood this, Lisa, then it's a one-time grant, and then they will, this will come back in the form of community grants, is that correct?
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Reid, yes, we will be providing a framework for the operating grants that our community is able to apply for, and they would be completely eligible to apply under that framework. Remember, the money that was allocated for victim services has carried forward in our budget, so we have that money in our budget for next year.
So the money for next year for victim services is a separate account. This
Correct.
happened to be a surplus this year, and we moved it over.
Correct.
So that's one time. And then to Councillor Flowers' point, while I'm sensitive to what she's suggesting, without understanding the budget and the implications for that organization and others in context to each other, it would be hard for me to kind of take additional funds from reserve for this. So.
Councillor Fedayko?
Thank you. Through to Mr. Dercott. I'm supportive of this. I'm supportive of the work that Helping Hands does. They've done some great work in our community, and I thank you. I thank all of you for being the helping hands of our community. Were there any other organizations that perhaps this money could have supported?
Through the chair to Councillor Fedayko, I referenced one during budget deliberations that I believe Sports for Life had come forward with an ask as well. I don't off the top of my head know of any others that have come forward and asked. I 100% know that there would be other organizations that would want to access this money, but they haven't come forward and asked.
Yeah, I think you're very right on that. I think there are some organizations that very much could have used the funding right now, but I'm happy to support Helping Hands for the work that they do in our community.
Thank you.
Counselor Wilson.
Thank you. Could you remind me, Ms. Ullman, my memory's fading, what was the number? I know Helping Hands did the presentation for us, and there was a one-time ask for funding, if memory serves. Was this the amount that was asked for?
No, through the chair to Councillor Wilson, this was not the amount, this was the suggestion that I made, because I believe they had asked for 75,000.
And was that a one-time funding? Do you happen to recall? I don't mean to put
Yes,
you on the
it
spot.
was a
Yeah, okay.
one-time funding
Okay,
ask.
and so the way we came to this 26,000 was simply this is what was returned from the Victim Services Partnership? Is that how we got this number?
Correct. My view on that was it was community investment money that could be reallocated without touching reserves, etc. As per Councillor Fadeko's point, there is a lot of other organisations that could access it as well. So we just want to be sure that we're being equitable.
Okay, yeah, and then just the language here, it says the allocate from amounts returned. So does that mean there was more than that returned from Victim Services, or is this the amount that was returned?
That
I'm
is
not
the
clear.
exact amount down to the
Okay.
33
Okay,
cents.
that gives me clarity on how we got to that exact strange number, okay. Not knowing more than I do, I'm happy to support this today. Obviously, that presentation the other day was very, it's impressive to see how much goes on, and I think this amount will be multiplied throughout the community. Interesting to have the conversation in the future, next year, if I'm the one having that conversation about what the funding looks like going forward, but this makes sense to me today for the 26,000.
Yeah, I'll weigh in. Appreciate the suggestion for the 26,000, and I also appreciate that we have that budgeted currently. However, respectfully, I think the Helping Hands asked for 75,000, and I would like to see them get the entire amount. I'm with Councillor Flowers on that. So fund the 75 from the 26, but then from operating reserve, come up with the other 49 or 48 and change to increase to 75,000, because for all the reasons that were outlined in the presentation. One-time ask, I think we all can agree on the need. We can all agree that the work is sound and good and that there are good people doing great things in our community. The dollar amount, and I'll get it wrong, but it's at least a 4 multiplier when we invest in a volunteer group like this, excuse me. I had the opportunity of going there on Friday and meeting with some of the volunteers and the board members that work there, and there are great groups across the community that are doing great work. I agree with you, Councillor Fedeko. But this is one that has come to us and asked for help, and what I would like to see is that we grant the request, similar to what and I don't want to make the connection between what happened with Route 22, but I think it was a similar request that has turned into a good news story in our community, and that entity has now flourished and is in our downtown core doing something that I think brings great value to our community. This, on top of that, is now a volunteer group doing that. So I'd like to see council go all the way to the 75, and I did not hear Helping Hands say they were going to come back in the new year and try and apply for more. I mean, obviously they have that opportunity and that option. This was a one-time to get them through this year. So I'd just like to see us draw from that operating reserve and be able to say to them that they can have the year that they need to have this year with the funding. Otherwise, I'm not sure where that leaves them, because they're still 50,000 short of what they asked for. They wouldn't have asked for it if they didn't need it. And anyways, I'm babbling now, but I hope I'm making the case for you to think about investing in an organization that's doing some incredible work. Councillor McFadden.
Yeah, I mean, budget was all of 2 weeks ago, and you'd think I'd remember it more clearly. But, because we had this debate during budget, and the recommendation from Admin at that time was to defer it until we had a kind of a defined process. So then my question is this, because I certainly support trying to find a way to find the 75,000. Are we thinking that we would vote on this, and then would we then have this discussion again in the budget deliberations next? Or you just want to find a way to pull it out of current operations reserves?
I'm talking about this year. It's like 2025 is next year's budget.
Yes,
What we talked about but that was the discussion we had in the budget deliberations was, we're talking about next year. This is a this year expenditure.
Okay, so then my question is then, what is the impact on which reserve, and what's the impact on that reserve? So I'm totally for it, just we didn't budget for it this year.
Right.
That's the question. So I think maybe I need to understand that a little bit more from our team about what the impacts to that would be, because then we have to make up that reserve.
If I may, I think I can answer that question through the chair, Councillor McFadden. So I'll trust the mayor's math here, about $48,000 reduction in our general operating reserve. It is, as we always say with reserves, there's as much money there as there is, and then once, you can only spend it once, so that's the choice that's being made there, but we can certainly accommodate that within our existing operating reserve.
Still have the floor, Councillor McFadden.
What is the current balance of the operating reserve? How much of an impact is this?
I think our total operational reserves, Alvin's gonna tell me here. It's about $6.5 million, so it's
So well within the margin?
It's, yes, that's why I said we can certainly accommodate it within that. I don't think it has an appreciable impact on that. There's always the risk of a death by 1,000 cuts as we want to be cautious of, but it, certainly financially, it's something that can be accommodated in that reserve.
So yeah, within that context, if we're going to amend the motion, or however you wanted to do that, I'm certainly in support of giving Helping Hands a hand up this year.
It's your motion.
So I can amend it? Okay, so I would like to, hang on. Sorry.
You moved the recommended action of 26,086.
Yeah, I just had to pull it up because I already moved on to budget. I would amend my motion then to state that council direct administration to allocate 75,000 from amounts returned from the Victim Services Civic Partnership Agreement, combined with funds from operating reserves to the Helping Hand Society of Cochrane within the 2024 budget cycle.
Okay, so that's an amendment to the motion. Councillor Federico?
Mr. Derricotte, while I'm in support of this, I'm just, I wasn't at the original Helping Hands presentation, so I apologize because I was not here. Was there original ask for $75,000 and we were only going to support 26?
Yes, through the chair, Councillor Federico, that is correct.
I mean, I guess I just wonder about other organizations within our community that perhaps we haven't given that opportunity to. I know that obviously the Activettes as well as the food bank are definitely down this year due to lower donations. And it's not that I'm not willing to want to support that, but I do think that we have to be fair to other organizations within our community overall. And I just don't know if us taking money from reserves in that great amount to support one versus the other is necessarily wise. We have an influx of funds to be able to support part of the request, and I'm definitely for that. Just maybe I would like to open up that window a little bit to hear from other groups that might need some funding that we just don't know about right now, and it's certainly in no slight to Helping Hands at all. It's just that I'm trying to be fair to other organizations within our community.
Councillor Flowers?
Just a point that we do fund the Cochrane Activettes, and we have for years. This group is new and they're doing amazing work. And they did get some support from FCSS, but now they're on their own, and this is just the time where they need a push up, a helping hand. And we have set the precedence with the Route 22 gallery, so I just think that we need to help out here and now.
Councillor Reid?
Yeah, I'm going to support the motion, but I agree with Councillor Federico. I think she makes a very good point, and I am concerned about other organizations that could and would need it. I think this sets an uncomfortable precedent. I think that's what Marnie's trying to say in terms of taking from reserves without necessarily opening it up to every group. But I think the return on investment in terms of this particular group, the mayor referred to a 4-to-1 or 5-to-1 ratio.
It's
I
probably
think
10.
Yeah. 10-to-1 then. I think it's a good return on investment, and in the overall scheme of things, $48,000 from reserves seems like peanuts. But again, I think Councilor Federico's right. I think it does set an uncomfortable precedent, but I'll support it.
I appreciate the conversation. I understand what you're saying, Councillor Reid and Councillor Federico. I think that's exactly what I'm hearing Ms. Allman say. We're reopening up that program in the spring and analyzing how that process will work, and all of those community groups will have a brand-new policy to access, including Helping Hands if they were to choose to do that. It's not what I heard them ask, but as Councillor Flowers has said, as a one-time ask from a new group that's doing great work, this is a little bit outside of that for me. So I think we're actually doing both with this. So I appreciate the amendment, Councillor McFadden. So we would vote on the amendment and then vote on the main motion, or no, the entire motion at 75. Okay. You guys, that's 2 for 2 for, well, 2 in a row anyways. No other lights, no other questions? So the motion on the floor is to allocate 75,000, utilizing the 26 that was in the package from, and the other coming from operating reserve to top up. Okay, I'll call the question. Oh, okay.
Clarification, if we defeat this motion, we can still give the 26, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor? Those opposed? I think that carried. I didn't see the hands over there. 4-3. Okay, carried. So that's done. Thank you, Ms.
Okay,
Allman.
thank you, Council.
5C, 5D, the budget. Budget 2025-27 budget approval. Mr. Alim.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am pleased to present the draft 2025 budget for approval. There are 3 motions tonight, which I will read at the end of the presentation. We'll start off with capital. There were 2 capital considerations before Council. The first one was the Tri-School Site Pathway Project. Council decided to defer this project to future budget consideration. This project had a funding value of $200,000, and it came from reserve. The second project was the River Heights Pump Station water and storage expansion. This project was already included in the 2025 capital project, but due to scope change, the project cost and funding source was revised. So the total capital project for 2025 is $85.5 million, and it is being funded as follows: debt of 39%, reserves of 21%, grants 7%, offset levy 8%, the water connection fee 14%, and other of 11%. And the other represents the developer contribution for the River Heights Pump Station project. Operations. For the tax supported, there was one addition. Council had agreed to increase the library funding by $49,000, which increased the revenue requirement to $988,700, or 2.63%. With respect to the rate supported, there was one addition, increasing the water and wastewater fixed rate by an additional of $1.65. This provided an additional $306,000 transferred to capital reserves. So the water fixed charge for 2024 was $13.90. The proposed fee is $16.39. And for the wastewater fixed charge, 2024 fee was $19.78. And the proposed fee for 2025 is $23.25. With respect to the total bill impact, with the increase of revenue requirement of 2.63%, an additional increase in the water and wastewater fixed charge, the annual increase for this property assessed at $615,500 and consuming approximately 13.5 cubic meters of water per month, the annual increase is $162.23, or $13.52 per month for 2025. So there are 3 council resolutions for tonight. First one is that council adopt the 2025 operating budget as presented. Number 2, that council adopt the 2025 capital budget as presented. And the third motion is that council approve all 2025 service fee increases as proposed and included in the 2025 operating budget. That is my present for tonight.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Reid, first on the light again.
Yep, I don't know if we can put those options back up, but I'll move the first, that is, that we adopt, or council adopt the 25-27 operating budget as presented. And just to speak to that, thank you, Elvin, and your team for the great work that's gone on in terms of being able to get this to where it is, and administration. I also wanted to say thank you to my publicly to my colleagues. You know, over the years that we've been together, and the number of budgets we've done, I'm personally and professionally grateful for where we've got in terms of the budget process. I think, yeah, there are a few things that we still need to tweak. I think there are minor. We've identified those as we went through this year's budget process, but I think the community should be very proud about the process itself and the documentation that has been provided, and particularly this year. So thank you to you and your team, and as I say, I'm happy to move option 1.
Thank you.
Okay, budget's on the floor. Counselor Flowers.
I too think the budget is amazing this year, and I'm really happy about things like the Colt that's going to get some attention and some improvements. Getting the James Walker Trail done, and all the new staff, especially the frontline staff that we're going to be getting, which this town needs as we're growing so fast. The only one I'm disappointed about is it lists that FCSS got one, and they didn't really get a new staff that's for affordable housing, which is much needed. But next year, I think we have to pay close attention because FCSS is really struggling to keep up with all that's going on. I think that was it. I'm overall happy with the process and that we won an award. And for people that think we made quick decisions, this goes on all year long. We started giving feedback last year right after the budget. Then in the spring, going out to the public, and staff worked all summer. It goes on and on and on for the whole year. So it's not a 2-day process. Thank you for everything.
Counselor Padeco.
Through Mr. Derricott, thank you for your presentation. I realize that the budget is a huge amount of work for not only yourself, but for all staff that have to feed into the process. I will obviously not be supporting this year's budget, and I think I said it clearly before. It is not about the number to me. It could be 2.63, it could be minus 0.5, it could be 10%. I believe that unfortunately, you know, when some council members come to the table, they're just excited about seeing an inflationary increase, but we never even had the numbers by that point, but they already kind of supported it based on it as just an inflationary increase without actually looking at perhaps areas where we could find efficiencies, right? And so that's my main reason for not supporting the budget. It's got nothing to do with the 2.63%. Again, I commend administration for coming back with that. But at the end of the day, I really do think it's our job as council members to really dive into the numbers, to look at perhaps some of the things that were questioned about was the education costs, were contractor costs. I'm watching our staff rapidly increase for the numbers of staff, yet our contractor dollars seem to have doubled over the last little while. And when I really look back from like our first term as council members to our second term, we're seeing you know, a 41.2% increase in operational budget increases to 84% in capital increases. It's a huge amount in 4 years. I am concerned about the future as to where our next council members are able to go, what they're able to cut, with also increasing staff, without us actually taking a time and not just looking at, oh, it sounds good, it's low, you know, again, lowest in the area. I don't think those are the kind of percentages I just want to go out to the public and state this is why we have the lowest. It's about doing our due diligence as council members sitting around this table, and I think we should always be looking for efficiencies within our budget, and that's our job. That's why we're elected. So again, I will not be adopting the operating, capital, or the service fee increases for this budget.
Councilor Wilson.
Thank you. I have a different opinion on the operational budget. I wrote down some of my comments just so I could remember them from, I think it was 2 weeks ago when we wrapped up all the deliberations, but for the document itself, I just wanted to say a few of the things, my criticisms about the document, the things that can still improve here are the OKRs. I think we talked about this, department deliverables, also known as their return on investment on tax dollars, need to be developed in further budgets, and I think we've already identified that. What really bothered me the most about this budget is that we need better category descriptors. We got to page 65 at one point, and I just made this note here where we're talking about funding for Arts and Culture Canada Day Light Up Community Awards was termed, and it was termed in the book miscellaneous materials and supplies. I think the current category descriptions are so vague, they're completely useless. So obviously that's not very redeeming. However, the good things I have to say about it, and I think it's going to improve. So the good things I have to say about it, I think it was really improved and is trending in a far superior direction from previous years. I don't believe that our budget task force time was spent in vain, and I appreciate our new finance team's direction so far. I think it's going in a great direction. I'm pleased with the ongoing work of them. I appreciate the what did we call it, the non-used car dealership budget model that Mr. Derricott presented, where this wasn't a budget that's meant to be haggled. I actually think it was a tight budget that was presented to us. I don't feel like I have to sit here and cut 2% off to try and feel like I'm doing my job this year, which I appreciate. The growth plus inflation strategy, I appreciate that prudence. I like to hear that we've caught up with needs, at least commensurate with existing service levels. And over 8 budgets, I think I said this in budget time, I believe this is the first operational one that I've voted for without amendment, which says to me, I feel like we have an efficient budget in front of us. I think our team is working efficiently, and I'm actually fairly pleased with it overall. I'll be voting in favor of the operational budget tonight.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McFadden?
Yeah, so first of all, congratulations to you and all of the team. I know that folks start working on the budget early and start getting stressed about it in September. Yeah, I really appreciate the lens that you and your new team have brought to the budget process, and look forward to you submitting this to hopefully win another award this year. In regards to that, I will be supporting the budget. I think if anybody looks at the videos, I think I asked my fair share of questions around it. In any budget, in any decision, it's very rare that you get 100% of your context, especially within deliberations and decisions as complex as the budget is. And so while there are elements of the budget that I disagree with or like to strengthen, certainly I think Councillor Wilson identified that need to get a little bit more clarity out of the categories, and I'd like us to move closer to zero-based budgeting in the future, and certainly be more deliberate in our contribution to reserves. So I do have some criticisms. Is it my ideal perfect budget? No, but does it accomplish big picture what I want to do in this term? Yes, it does, and so it does have my support. So, and that goes for the operating capital and all of the utilities as well.
No one else? Okay, I'm happy to support the operating budget. Not going to repeat everything. I'm going to repeat some things though. Do really appreciate the growth plus inflation approach that was taken. I also appreciate, Councillor Wilson, the non-haggle type of negotiation-based discussions that we have that during budget that I think are leading to better outcomes. And Councillor Reid, I agree with you. I think we've had a much better process this time around. Appreciated the document and how it was presented. I do have a criticism around those level 2 disclosure tags, but I think I understand those are going to be improved, and that was just this year finance team trying to get that level 2 disclosure in there, and next year let's fine tune it. So always looking for improvements, but I was trying to find a way to really talk about the budget in such a great way, and the word I came up with was reasonable. This is a reasonable budget. It's in a time when inflation is high, people are pinched, and we have growing costs in the organization to balance with the needs and the expectations of all of us as community members. I think this budget balanced that well. And not going through the entire budget, but I agree with it's an investment in our transit system and really kickstarting Colt in 2025. I look forward to that presentation coming back. Really sound investment in recreation with the Horse Creek Sports Park servicing and leveling and grading and the Ball Diamond rehab, not to just to pick on a couple. the new high school site gets serviced, which we talked about with the grant earlier this evening. Keeping our community safe, I think we take that for granted in Cochrane, but we have one of the safest communities in the province, and I think it's our responsibility to try to keep it that way, especially with the growth pressures that we're under. That could get away with us on us very quickly. Planning to address the needs for the library. Finally, we're starting to get into the strides of looking ahead rather than trying to keep up with what we've been struggling with. Infrastructure, that was a big one, and asset management, pipes and water and sewer. Those things, we've seen that across the country with water main breaks, and we've had our own touch with that, and I've heard from a lot of residents about how are we doing, and we're investing in that. I appreciate that in this budget. And the continued investment in our people, which I think, as an example, the budget process is an outcome of that. We have, in past budgets, invested and kind of, had to go for some bigger tax increases to try to catch up organizationally. And now we're feeling it in the budget process where that's happening smoother. We're getting better materials. We're feeling better about the outcome. And that is only going to spread across, if it hasn't already, spread across the entire organization. And that, at least that's the hope as we build things out. So continuing to invest in our people and keeping pace with the growing needs of Cochrane and the expectations. We have to. So again, growth management was another one that no one talked about yet, and James Walker Trail, finally able to get that corridor invested in and construction started and taking the traffic off of River Heights Drive, which we've heard from so many people on. There's so many things. Those were the top highlights. But I do want to reflect back on that growth and inflation. That was really what drove this from the beginning. And I've gone through that budget a few times with a fine-tooth comb and feel like I have done my due diligence and representing the community in the best way that I can with this budget. I feel good about it. I don't see any other lights on. Did I talk us out of any more commentary? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the budget? Those opposed? That carries. We have two other motions on there. Councillor McFadden.
I'll move that council adopt the 2025 capital budget as presented.
Okay, any comments there? I just realized that all of my comments covered everything on that screen too. So I'll just not repeat that. I don't see any lights. All those in favor of the capital budget? Those opposed? That carries. And we need a motion for the service fee increases. Councillor Flowers.
I move that council approve all 2025 service fee increases as proposed and included in the 2025 operating budget.
So to be clear, these are the service fees, not the utilities that we're dealing with later in the budget. Yeah. Okay, Councillor Wilson.
Well, thank you for that clarity. The utility fees come later, pardon me.
Yep, that's right next. Water, sanitary, waste.
My light came on too soon.
Okay, I anticipated that, that's why.
If I may, just for clarity, that the proposed rate increases for those utilities are included in the operating budget that was just passed. So the work done on the utility bylaws is to just bring it in line with the bylaw that was passed. So just a point of clarity there.
Okay. Okay, the service fees. Councillor Flowers, you put the motion on the floor already? Okay, sorry, I had all those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, that carries. And that is 5D.
Mayor Janung, if I may just add a few brief comments there. I just want to thank obviously Alvin and the administrative team for all the work, but as I have taken to beginning each budget deliberation with council as this language about it being a collaboration between between council and administration, and certainly feel that this year in particular, but always that approach has yielded, as you said, really good results on behalf of our community. And I would include in that the feedback that we received over the last couple of years, as well as the critiques that council has offered through this process. They do help us to reflect and improve the process on an ongoing basis. And I think that we should collectively, council and administration, as you said, be proud of. I appreciate and agree with the language choice around this being a reasonable budget in our community's context, and I think will serve us well through the next year. So thanks to all involved.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's a big deal and a lot of work. Appreciate all the people behind it. With that, let's move into 5E, bylaw 05 2024 water utility bylaw. Mr. Tooth.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me. Tonight, I'm requesting the Council give second and third readings to Water Utility Bylaw Amendment 05 2024, which remains the same as presented to Council on November 25th. The proposed $2.76 water rate increase accounts for approximately 20% of the overall monthly residential impact of $13.52 that Al just presented. The additional revenue will help fund the proposed utility rate review, water conservation program enhancement, staffing, and increased reserve contributions. Building on Councillor McFadden's suggestion from last week's Committee of the Whole meeting, I felt it prudent to show the Calgary area intermunicipal comparison once again. You'll note, out of the 6 municipalities listed here, Cochrane will continue to have the most competitive average monthly water bill in 2025. That concludes this presentation. Thank you for your time. I welcome any comments you may have and respectfully request the Council consider my recommendation to provide second and third readings to Water Utility Bylaw 05 2024.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. And again, yeah, we've seen this a couple of times now. Councillor McFadden?
Yep, I'm pleased to move second reading to bylaw 06, 2024, and just to commend you and your team for doing an excellent job during the budget process.
If I may, I think we are on bylaw 05 2024. The next one is 06, so yeah, I think so.
You're one ahead. Same comments for, okay, water and sewer. Councillor Federico.
Through Mr. Derricotte, well, I appreciate the fact that water obviously has to go up. I'm not in favor of the reserve contribution going up because I believe that, I'm not sure why you'd want to probably annoy a lot of residents over a $300,000 increase when I think that we could probably have found that money within the budget itself, but that's just my personal opinion sitting around the table, so I obviously respect the overall opinion of my colleagues, but I will not be voting in favor of it because it has a reserve contribution attached to it.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. Just a question for clarity. I'm trying to, this new amount that's presented in front of us, I believe that's the amount that was come through after deliberations. There was, includes the increase to reserves that council decided we wanted to give mid-deliberations. Is that correct?
So the proposed monthly increase up there was $2.76. And that's at the average consumption of 13.5 cubic meters per month.
Which is more than was originally presented in the original budget. Thank you. Okay. So I'm marginally not in favor of this, simply because I think it was a arbitrary increase by council to see our reserves go up, which I'm almost certain need to happen and probably will take a little bit of the pain away from next year perhaps, but I'd rather see our asset manager in place with a plan showing this is where we are, this is where we need to get to, rather than arbitrary increases. So, well, I think we're going to need it anyway. I'm almost certain of it. This year I wouldn't have increased that, so I'd vote against this in the next one. 05 and 6, I believe I just saw, for that simple reason.
Councillor Flowers?
And I'm all for this increase. I think we're way behind on our fees. We've got to get caught up. We want growth to pay for growth, and we need more water money, so I'm all for it.
Councillor Reid?
Yeah, when this came up originally, I was where Councilor Wilson is right now, but I now believe that you either pay me now or you pay me later. And I think paying me later is going to be more painful than paying me now. So that's why I'm in support of the addition to the reserves.
Yeah, just my 2 cents on this one is, I think we can agree we need to increase our reserve allocation. I agree with you, Councillor Wilson, around the asset manager and having a plan and a program to do that. I heard during the presentations during budget that a lot of that work's already been done in the utility area. So there was a plan to go to higher fees over, I think it was a 7-year, 5-year, 7, one of those. It was an odd number, I remember that, 7 or 9, to get us to where that asset management plan in utilities needs us to be. So that's why I'm in support of the increase now, is that some of that work's already been done. So, but I agree with you on the rest, and that's, I think, why we didn't do it in the operating budget. We did it in the utility fees. So that's my reason for supporting it tonight. I don't know if that's got any more lights going on. I don't see them. I'm going to call the question on second reading. All those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, that carries. We need third reading for that as well, please. Councillor McFadden, you want to carry? 05.
Yeah, just read what's in front of you.
I move that council give third reading to bylaw amendment 05, 2024. I get a thumbs up there?
All right. All those in favor of third reading? Those opposed? And that also carries. 5E in the books. 5F is the sanitary sewer. Thank you. This is 06, 2024.
All right, round 2. Tonight, I'm requesting the council give a second and third readings to sanitary sewer bylaw amendment 06, 2024, which remains the same as presented to council on November 25th. At the proposed $4.42 sanitary and 68-cent storm rate increases account for approximately 33% and 5% respectively of the total monthly residential impact of $13.52 that Al just presented. The additional revenue will help fund increased wastewater treatment costs passed on from Calgary, staffing, meter renewal, and increased reserve contributions. Here's a Calgary area intermunicipal comparison once again. You'll note, out of the 6 municipalities here, Cochrane has the 3rd most competitive rate in the region. That concludes my brief presentation. Thank you for your time. I welcome any comments you may have and respectfully request the council consider my recommendation to provide second and third readings to sanitary sewer bylaw amendment 06, 2024.
Councillor Flowers.
I'll move that council give second reading to sanitary sewer bylaw amendment 06 of 2024. I believe that most of this is because Calgary increased their prices.
It was a good portion of it. It was about $250,000 it went up.
Okay, we want to keep sending our sewer. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other discussion. All those in favor of second reading? Those opposed? That carries. Councillor Flowers, you want to carry on with third reading?
Oh, sure. I'll move that council give third reading to sanitary sewer bylaw amendment 06 of 2024.
All those in favor of third reading? Those opposed? Carried. I saw that as in favor. Yeah, in favor. Okay, that's 5E. 5F. Yeah, my notes are different than my agenda. 5F. We just did 5F. 5G. 07, 2024 Waste Management Bylaw.
Good evening, Council. Tonight, I'm seeking second and third readings for amendments to Waste Management Bylaw 07, 2024. As previously discussed, there are no increases being recommended to the waste collection and eco center rates in 2025. They remain at $26.65 and $5 respectively. Within the waste management fee schedule, administration is recommending a $3 increase for the purchase or replacement of new 120-liter carts. The cost to the Waste and Recycling Department to purchase and supply these carts is increased, and we're simply passing this $3 increase on. I welcome any comments that you may have and respectfully request Council consider my recommendation to provide second and third reading to bylaw 07-2024.
Thank you. Council, second reading. Councillor Reid.
I would move council give second reading to bylaw 07-2024.
Any discussion? No? All those in favor? Okay, that carries.
I'll move third reading of bylaw 07-2024.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. All those in favor? Carried.
Thank you,
Unanimous.
Council. Have a great holidays.
Thank you. You as well. That's 5G. 5H, bylaw 27, River Heights Water Storage Expansion Borrowing. Mr. Aleem.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm presenting the bylaw 27-2024 River Heights Water Storage Expansion. And the recommended action is that Council give first reading to bylaw 27-2024. The River Heights Project Storage Expansion, that is included in our approved 2025 budget. This borrowing bylaw is to start the process for the debt. The total project cost is $14,062,000, and it's funded in three sources: operations of $130,000, developer contribution of $6,994,000, and debt, which is the town's portion, of $6,938,000. The debt will be amortized over 30 years, which is less than the estimated asset life, which is 45 years. As of today, the indicative interest rates from the government of Alberta is roughly at 4.89%. No new debt has been taken on by the town in 2024. The unused debt limit, using the town's imposed limit of 80% of the legislative amount, is $65.2 million. Therefore, there is room to take on this additional debt. Upon approval of first reading, administration will advertise the bylaw for 2 consecutive weeks as per the MGA, and second and third reading will be presented to council for approval in January of 2025. And that is the presentation for tonight.
Okay, looking for first reading. Put this in the public realm. Councillor McFadden, thank you.
Make sure I got the right one. I do. The council give first reading to bylaw 27-2024.
You got it.
I've got the correct numbering. I have no questions. It's needed infrastructure and it's a sound strategy.
Okay, I will call the question. All those in favor? That carries.
Thank you.
5I is committee appointments. Ms. Robertson, we have a few committees and a lot of candidates to go through. So we'll likely be going in camera or closed session to discuss the personal matters of that.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Before you tonight is your annual committee appointments. We have, as you can see in your the report this evening, there are a number of committees that have vacancies due to expiries of terms. And so we had a resounding success in our recruitment process this year, garnering a significant amount of applicants for a number of the committees. And so, as always, administration is recommending council consider going into closed session to review the applications and the recommendations from the panels. that we're doing the interviews for these committees.
Okay, as is our custom, look for a motion to go into closed session. Counselor Flowers,
I move that we go into closed session to discuss this.
all those in favor? That carries, so we'll take a few minutes and go in the back room.
We live?
Okay, we're back. So now we're into filling in the form.
Motion to come out of closed session.
Oh, yes, sorry. Thank you. Motion to come out of closed session. Thank you, Counselor Wilson. All those in favor? Done. Vote away. I don't know how both sides have markings on them. We'll take a 5-minute recess and allow you to tabulate. Back at, well, when the votes are tabulated, we could just.
Are we at recess, Lisa? Are we paused? Okay. Now I'll make all my noise. Lisa, can I get you to come here? I wanted to just do a double count with so many. I don't want to, so here's a sheet for you. I'm gonna count them and then I'm gonna give them to you. Yeah, mark how many votes next to whoever's on that ballot, similar to what I'm doing here. Yep. No, no. I want to do it right, not fast. Good. Jeremy's last. Okay. I'm so messy with this one. How many did he get? Okay, that's what I thought. Seven. She's getting pointed. We'll get used to this for election. 2. Okay, so what that translates to is this. Those 4, those 2, those 4, with the waive of that provision. Those 3, and she is Yohan, right? Okay. Let me give this sheet to the mayor.
Okay, streaming. Okay, council, we have a few appointments, so we're going to go in order of the, that is outlined in our package. So the first motion we'll need is Cochrane Library Board. You want me to read the, okay, you make me do all the work. Mr. Belzy, Bill Belzy, Chanel Samard, Kirsten Sens, and Rhonda Newman to the Library Board. So we need a motion to that effect.
For clarity, Mr. Mayor, just a reminder that Ms. Newman's appointment is for a singular year.
For 1 year.
The other appointees would be for a 3-year term starting January 2025, with a term to expire December 31st, 2027.
Okay, so that's your motion.
So moved. So moved.
Excellent. All those in favor of that? That carries unanimously. Now we're going to Cochrane Planning Commission. Council has voted for Fadi Bayoud and David Helmer to be on the Cochrane Planning Commission. Need a motion for that. Councillor Reid. All those in favor? Carried. Next one is FCSS. Council has chosen Sandy Kenny, Melanie Dickinson, and Donna Devlin. So we need a motion for those 3 public at large members. Councillor Flowers.
I'll make that motion for those 3 on FCSS.
Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Next is Subdivision and Appeal Board. We have Ioanri Dursima and Logan Cox, Christopher Hutchinson, and Terry-Ann Holmrust. Councillor Nagel.
I so move.
Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. And then council must make a resolution to section 4.4. A member may serve more than 1 term, but in no event shall a member serve more than 2 consecutive terms unless otherwise designated by council. So we need a motion to waive that in our bylaw 2020-24. Councillor Reid, everyone understands what we're doing there? Okay. All those in favor of that? Carries. Now we need a motion to appoint, this is ARB, Penny Meller, Ioanri Dursima, Shelley Schmidt, and Linda Gale. 4 members to the public at large, ARB. Anyone? Councillor Wilson, thank you. All those in favor of that? And that carries. And that completes our committee appointments for tonight. Thank you, Ms. Robertson. Now I gotta find where I am in the agenda. Oh, all the shuffling. The mayor's report. It is my favorite part. Oh, here it is. It is the mayor's report. I do have some prepared remarks tonight that I wanted to go over, just being at our last meeting. I just wanted to take a moment to reflect on the progress we've made as a community and the challenges we've faced together. This year has truly been one of growth for Cochrane, both in population of our town and in the deepening of the connections we share. We've seen significant growth this year, not just in terms of development and infrastructure, but in how we've been working together as an organization. We've confronted new challenges head on, from navigating rapid change to addressing the complex needs of our growing community. There have been moments of difficulty, of course, times when the pace of change felt overwhelming, but through it all, we've remained focused on what's best for our residents and the future of this town. As we reflect on all we've accomplished, I want to express my deepest gratitude to each of you, the dedicated team around me. I'm grateful for the support and collaboration of my fellow council members and for the tireless work of administration and staff who show up every single day. It's not always easy and it's not always glamorous, but we are all united by a shared vision of a strong, vibrant Cochrane, and I am proud of the work that we've done this year. I also want to take a moment to express my deep appreciation for this community we call home. We're truly lucky to live in a place like Cochrane, surrounded by a natural beauty with a sense of community that's rare to find. Our residents continue to inspire us to keep pushing forward and working hard to make this a better place for all. Christmas and the spirit of goodwill are alive and well in Cochrane. I had the privilege of speaking at the Home Treasurers year-end dinner on Friday night, where we learned that this incredible organization has donated nearly $300,000 back to our community this year, just this year. That generosity is a reflection of the heart of Cochrane. This holiday season, we've seen so many local organizations come together to make a real difference in people's lives. The Cochrane Activettes with the annual Share Your Christmas campaign, and Case's Stuff a Bus that happened on Saturday. Those events have helped make Christmas just a little easier and support families in need. And Kiwanis Christmas Toy Project yesterday, which made sure 200 kids got to pick out toys, receive mitts and toques, and share a special moment with Santa. This is Cochrane. This is why we do what we do. We take care of one another. We lift each other up, and we make sure that no one is left behind. It is that spirit of community and compassion that makes me proud to serve this town. We are so fortunate to live in a place where people care deeply for each other, and I'm inspired by all the way our residents, organizations, and businesses contribute to the fabric of our community, not just at Christmas, but all year round. As we look ahead to the new year, there is much more to do, but we have a great team in place, and the foundation we've built this year will continue to support us as we take on new challenges and opportunities in 2025. I'd like to wish you all a peaceful holiday season. I hope each of you gets the chance to take some time to relax and recharge and enjoy the quiet moments with your loved ones. You've all earned it. Thank you again for your dedication, your hard work, and your continued commitment to Cochrane. Here's to an even stronger year ahead. That's my mayor's report tonight. Thank you, guys. Councillor Wilson.
That was an excellent report. I'm just pulling up. I have a councillor report for once, which I haven't had in weeks, so. So I just completed about a 6-week online training course, the Strong Towns Accelerated Program Learnings. I took pages and pages of notes. I thought it was really good, and if I could have 60 or 90 seconds here, I just wanted to give a little bit of the what I learned from 6 weeks of this. I think it's one of the top things we can be talking about around this council table, as I went on about before. So the things I learned, as much as I could nutshell it here for the council group, is the suburban experiment is a radical departure from the human norm. The development treadmill, as I've referred to it, and I stole that from Councillor Nagel, I believe, last election. I just love the term development treadmill. The things I'm about to say are very paraphrased from the program notes and Chuck Marohn and Strong Towns, so I'm not claiming these words to be my own, but wisdom accumulated over thousands of years of human building has been cast aside the last many decades. It was replaced with a top-down, centralized, technocratic experiment, and is not going well. I intuited this myself in 2017 when I ran for election. I spent the last many years trying to figure out how do we escape that development treadmill. Here's what I found here. We need to replace the urban experiment, and we can learn from practices of the past. For local government, financial solvency is a prerequisite for long-term prosperity. Land is a base resource from which our community prosperity is built and sustained. It must not be squandered. Job creation and economic growth are results of a healthy local economy, not substitutes for one. We should rely on incremental investments instead of large transformative projects, favor resiliency of results over efficiency of execution, and bottom-up action over top-down results. And my big takeaway from the whole 6 weeks is be obsessive about accounting for revenue, expenses, assets, and long-term liabilities. Top-down investments in transportation, infrastructure, and housing are attractive to municipalities because local governments do financially benefit from them in the short term. However, the grave downside is that each transaction creates a long-term liability for ongoing service, maintenance, and replacement, an obligation which far exceeds Cochrane's current capacity to meet it. We have grown ourselves into insolvency. This inevitably leads to future cuts in services, deferral of maintenance, increased taxes, and accelerating levels of debts over time. The solutions I took from it, and I wholeheartedly believe we've begun these: financial development analysis derived from our Urban 3 consultation approved by council and delivered earlier this year. Our next step is our customized financial development analysis. Those tools are currently being developed for the future, I trust. Value per acre, just like a farmer, municipalities used to measure everything this way before World War II. Overlay zoning, small incremental steps, finding zoning ways to make things that are financially productive, possible, and attractive. Incrementalism doesn't need to mean slow. Changing things in small areas, 6 blocks, show actual people the benefit. Use this to hold to prove a project, don't go citywides. I'm almost done here, pardon me. Small bets downtown, value per acre. These offer big returns versus giant commercial projects on the edges, and so many more tactics that I have that's too long for a small council report. So why does any of this matter? We ask ourselves. Well, I seek for existing Cochrane residents to be better off with every new resident that moves to town and keep Cochrane the great place to live that it is. I believe this relatively inexpensive training investment really packed a punch, and I was impressed with it. And I'm excited to keep moving in the right direction on these very important topics. Whenever we do training courses or go to conferences, we usually come back and have a few things to say. And I thought the course was just so impactful that I read you a bit of a diatribe, but I'm looking to incorporate those things into my future decision makings and help influence this council that's come a long way in those topics with me, and administration as well. So Merry Christmas to everyone around the bench, council, administration, Cochrane. See you in the new year.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Detailed report. Councillor Federico.
Thank you. Well, I don't have a committee report to address. I did want to say Merry Christmas to each and everybody around the table, including all of our staff, as well as every single person in the community. I hope everybody enjoys the holiday season. And I did want to mention that I did receive the elected officials. I've done all my EOEP courses. I'm one of very few elected officials across the province who has actually received the certificate from Augustin Extended Education for the Municipal Elected Leaders Certificate. So when we talk about education, I'm one of few that has received that. So I just wanted to obviously thank the opportunity that I've been able to gain that from council overall. It's definitely brought out a lot of points that I wanted to address. So anyways, Merry Christmas to everybody.
Councillor Flowers.
Yes, just a couple things. I attended the CHAPS Christmas gathering yesterday, and what a great group. They're looking after our history for Cochrane, and they really care about the community and doing great work, so it was fun to connect with them. Then I was part of Seniors on the Bow today. They had a panel discussion about the Big Hill Lodge. They want to have a chance to give input and talk about the future, so lots of discussion. Didn't get us too far, but we identified lots of the problems, and it's a great group also to connect with. Merry Christmas, everyone. I'm going to Mexico, so I'll see you when I get back.
Mic drop by Susan Flowers. Councillor McFadden.
Yeah, I don't have a council report per se. I just did want to commend my colleagues for stepping up and taking education courses. That's a lot of extra time. And I appreciate you leaning in to build capacity and bring different ideas to the table. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. And then to our administrative team and my council colleagues and residents of Cochrane overall, yeah, Merry Christmas. The mayor said it well. I wish everybody a bit of a downtime and a chance to spend some time with family and loved ones, and a little bit of, for me, winters are kind of a bit of a rest and recovery. So I hope folks can get some downtime to do that. And we're not quite done tonight, but yeah, Merry Christmas to all.
Okay, thank you for all those reports. We do have one closed session item tonight. Need a motion to go into closed session, and we will end the year. Councillor Reid, all those in favor? That carries. Thank you. We'll